Welcome to Student Spotlight, where each month we'll be spotlighting a different graduate student from the English department at Oklahoma State. My name is Sean Kulikin, the English grad student coordinator, and I'll be your host. And today I'm very excited to meet with our guest from the Lit program, Oliver Spivey. Oliver, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Sean.
So Oliver, the way this thing works is I ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
And you give us 5 answers. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Question number 1. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on here at OSU?
Sure. So some brief background. I grew up in the Carolinas, went to University of North Carolina at Pembroke, received my BA there in English, also did some film studies, and then I went on to NC State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. I got my master's there, and I worked on American literature, but also film studies. Early on, I was very much interested in film. I even took some film classes when I came to OSU, and those were also incredible, right? We have a screen studies department here at OSU, so it's, that also blends well with anybody who's a literature major. And so that was a lot of fun. Here at OSU, I'm really working on a project dealing with a tragedy and the tragic in American literature, and thinking about how tragedy could be defined in an American context, and thinking about how fiction writers from the late 18th century through the middle of the 20th century have dealt with tragedy, and thinking about American history through, in a tragic way, thinking, placing all of them in each of these writers in their own context and how they were able to perceive the tragic in their own time. So it's been very interesting, and that's currently what my dissertation is about. And I cover a lot of writers, all the way from, Charles Brockden Brown, who wrote Wieland, through Ralph Ellison, who did Invisible Man. And so it's quite a selection. But I think that we actually have a really fascinating tradition or traditions of tragic storytelling in American fiction. I would also say probably in American poetry. So it's interesting. It's a topic that hasn't been taken up much lately, though there are a few critics who are working on tragedy, but very little about America, very little about the American context. And so what I really wanted to do was to start thinking about this American context and tragedy. Some have even claimed especially years ago, that, American literature was more of a comic literature or a more hopeful literature that it somehow lacked. But I think that really, nothing could be further from the truth, right? I think that the reality is that our writers are very concerned with tragic realities. Whether it's the history of slavery, whether it's, the myth of Adamic innocence, the myth of, absolute autonomy. All of these ideas get presented through fiction in America. And so, and oftentimes there are tragic consequences for characters who evade these truths. And that's sort of the theme of my dissertation, is evasion, how all of these characters turn a blind eye to tragic reality. So that's what I'm working on. It's sort of a long spiel, but that's it,
No, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you very much. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Question number 2. So why did you choose to come to Oklahoma State?
I chose OSU, I think because from reading the profiles of the professors, reading about the program, I came to the conclusion that, it is a very open-ended program. You can design your own major. The faculty have a variety of interests, and they just all sounded like great people to work with, and I wanted to try it out. And in fact, it happened to be sort of last minute decision. I had a list of like 14 other schools, and I saw OSU, and I said, okay, I'm going to put OSU on the list, though I was a little worried at first that, it might not work out. But then I said, I'm going to go with it. And I'm glad I did, because I only got accepted at one other school, and OSU decided to give me everything. And I said, you know what, awesome. I'm going to OSU. I never thought that I would end up in Oklahoma, but don't let that discourage you, right? If you're
Right.
thinking about coming to OSU, I mean, Oklahoma, what a great place. There's actually a lot of phenomenal history, and
Mhm.
there's so much to do. So
Yeah.
it turned out to be the best decision I've ever made.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, those are really strong words. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
totally agree. I never thought I'd end up in Oklahoma either. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. It was really, and for especially if you're coming from the coast,
mhm.
don't let anything, any stereotypes, anything like stop you. Okay, like there's
Yeah.
Oklahoma. There's a lot going on. There's actually a lot of culture. There's really so much to do and explore. And so, go for it. And especially the students who might be interested in Native American
Mhm.
literature. I mean, right? Oklahoma is the center, right? The epicenter of all of this Native American history.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Question number 3. What are some of the best things about this program that have happened to you that you'd like to share?
wow, quite a few things. I mean, so this kind of ties into what I previously said in the earlier question, but I think that for me, the faculty,
Mhm.
the breadth of specializations of interests, the openness of the program really allows you to develop your own. I mean, there are certain courses obviously you have to take and you'll want to take, but I think that overall you have a program here that is open to letting you set up your area of concentration. Here's what I want to concentrate on. Here's what my focus is. And at first I was like, well, I hope this works out. I don't know what people will think about my ideas. And sure enough, I found a lot of kindred spirits, a lot of people who supported what I was doing, who were open to my ideas. So there's a real, especially if you're interested in literature, right? A real literary pluralism, I think, to the department. I think that there's a real pluralistic sense that we have a real diversity of interests and ideas, and that we can mix and match, and we can go different directions. And for me, that's everything. I want to stay as open to avenues of inquiry as I can. So
Yeah.
that, for me, I think really the department, I've gotten to work with some really wonderful professors, some of the best that I've ever had, and they will help you every step of the way. It's there's no question in my mind. If I had to do this over again, I would in a heartbeat. So,
Yeah.
professors, the breadth of expertise, the openness of the program, the ability to develop your own area of interest. That to me, it has been phenomenal. I've also made some great friends, and I think you have that family feel, like in the office. You get to know your classmates. You get to know people, even if they're not in your classes. You just get to know people in the department. It's the class sizes, I think, are conducive to really solid learning. In my view, I mean, I think that the most I had in the class, maybe 10 or 12 people, but you have a lot of space there to talk to the professors, right? You can actually meet with them, discuss things with them. So for me, those are the real benefits of OSU. So
Yeah. Wow. Great answer. Thank you. Yeah. Question number 4. Do you have any advice for other students and or future students?
yeah, I have a couple things I would say. Stay open to to everything. You come in and you'll take a few, I think at least 2 classes early on, 2 or 3 classes that are sort of standard required classes, but they really help you start thinking about your own approach to whatever it is you're doing, right? Whether it's screen studies, rec comp, literature. I mean, you take courses where you get to hear ideas and different theories, methodologies, approaches, and I think it will prepare you. So even if you come in knowing what you want to do, keep your mind open, because you never know. I came in with a certain idea and I kind of changed midstream. I said, I think I'm going to switch ideas here with the dissertation and where I want it to go, and that paid off for me. So stay open to that. Also, while you're at OSU, make friends, right? Stay social. This is important, and all of us, I think, have the habit sometimes in graduate school of self-isolating. Sometimes putting ourselves in a corner somewhere in a library or in wherever it is, but you're so caught up in your focus and your research that you lose out. There's a lot to do, and also you need that support. You need that socialization. If you don't get it, I think that you can drive yourself nuts. So just realize there are other people. They're all going through the difficulties of grad school together, but there are outlets. Go out to the local burger joint or pizza place with them. Hang out, make friends. So go to meetings. Go to there's any number of things that you can do, right? So don't allow yourself to become isolated. That's important, I think, at any graduate school. But there's a lot of opportunity at OSU, especially with the real communal feeling, with the small size of the classes, to get to know your fellow classmates and to give each other support. Because, let's be honest, it will be difficult at times. It's graduate school. And you want that support. You want to be around people. You want to be able to express yourself, express your ideas, to vent a little bit. So make sure you do that. There are times that I wish I had been a little more outgoing, and I ended up getting caught in my bubble, and that's just some brutal honesty. So don't let that happen too much. I was able finally to kind of break free of that, because I saw that could really lead to a place I didn't want to be, and I need other people to communicate with, and I think this is true for everyone. So maintain the sense of community in the department.
Yeah. Wow, that's really great advice. And I totally agree with the community aspect. And it's funny, it's everybody I talk to seems to kind of say something, along those lines about the community that we have.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And we have the department, I think people are there. They're gonna support you, they're gonna help you. You're not alone. So don't get into the mindset. I mean, for anyone going to a graduate program, right? Don't get into the mindset that you're alone. You're not. There are other people, including professors, who've been through this, and you'll get through it too. So
Yep. And by the way, I just want to point out that my first semester at OSU, I shared an office with Oliver, and Oliver was very helpful and welcomed me to the program and gave me some great advice. So
and that's one of the things I was saying, office mates. You want to, that's a great place to really start talking and meeting people. So
yeah. All right, great. All right, well, we have only one more question, and this one's kind of a fun one. What's one fun, unique interest or memory you'd like to share? And this could be related to Oklahoma State or not, just completely random if you want.
There's a lot of good memories, of course. There's so many, but for me, I would say, if there's one thing, I would say, when you get to Oklahoma State, especially when you have a little bit of free time, you have your summers, whatever, explore Oklahoma. And this is kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Explore the state, because it's actually a really remarkable place with a lot of history. There's all kinds of things you can do. For instance, my wife and I went to the Gloss Mountains, which is really fascinating buttes that sort of stick up in the middle of the prairie, right? And they're red in color, and there's these very interesting rocks, geologically fascinating, but also historically. There's Fort Sill down near Lawton, right? And you have the Wichita Mountains there. There's a lot of history there, especially Native American history, U.S. military history. You have, I believe Tulsa has the Bob Dylan collection, or it did.
I think it just opened this past at the beginning of the summer. Yep.
Awesome. I mean, and that's one that I didn't get to go to, and I'm regretting, but I still plan on it. So, you got the Bob Dylan Museum. You've also got the Western Heritage Museum, which, if you're interested in Native American history, the history of like the cattle drives, cowboys, that kind of thing, absolutely fascinating. I love that. Don't feel like Oklahoma scratching your head, like, what am I going to do? There's so much to do. I mean, you may find that it ties into your research interest too. I think this is true for a lot of people. There's a lot of culture, and even right up the road, right? If you're interested in the history of comics, right? I think Chester Gould is right up there in Pawnee. Chester Gould, who wrote the Dick Tracy comics. Back in the 1940s or 30s or whatever. He was born right there in Pawnee. You also have Jim Thorpe, the Native American athlete. His home is right down the road. Ingalls, which is an old ghost town, is 10 miles right from, and there was a famous, outlaw showdown there. So if you're interested in the Westerns, which I am, that was amazing for me, because in film studies, I very much focused on American Westerns. And so getting to actually experience the authentic West like that was quite something. So yeah, that's my main advice. Get out there, explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is yeah, that's really fun. And yeah, I totally second that. Yeah, there's a lot of great things to check out in Oklahoma. All right, well, thank you so much, Oliver.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was a great interview, and thanks for being on the show. And yeah, and also I wanted to say early congratulations, because I know that you're graduating this December.
Yep.
And yeah, and
thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish you the best of luck, and wherever you go after this. And also thank you to our viewers for watching. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll see you next month for another episode of Student Spotlight. Thank you very much.